Pasito tum tum, pasito tum tum, pasito tum tum, pasito tum tum.
Hey guys, welcome to the other side of modern things. And I'm still continuing on with the 80s nostalgia! So let's discuss the new episodic TV show from Netflix, Stranger Things. I didn't hear about it from word of mouth. I was just one day flipping at Netflix and I find this 80s looking show that caught my interest. So I take a look at it, I kill it off in one day, and it was good. What would be an accurate description of this show? Well, it's like if they E.T. the living 6 candles out of their chopper sick balls while watching Poltergeist in their Firestarter pajamas, only to wake up from their nightmare on Elm Street to find that Lando Calrissian has gone with the Goonies to Interstellar. Hi! You ain't nostalgic enough! Get back to your cage and stay there until you're 30 years old! Get out of here! Now this show is interesting not only for the outcome, but before it was made into reality. Stranger Things was directed by the new upcoming Duffer brothers, who at first tried to make it into a TV show on the network, but they would face several rejections from the network because they saw no potential on their story, until Netflix got ahead of them, gave them the opportunity, and the number speaks for itself. It became a word-of-mouth spread and highly recommended by so many that they're even calling it the best blockbuster movie of this summer. Do you hear that? They are saying, out of all the movies of this summer, this TV show that has nothing to do with Hollywood, was not released on theaters, was better than anything that Hollywood has put on so far. Wow, that is a low for Hollywood and a big one for Netflix. And I would not have it the other way around. I'm glad this was not made into a movie, since probably it wouldn't turn out as good as it did, but for a TV show, even though at times it felt like a movie trilogy, brings a lot of the 80s homage and nostalgia with this new adventure sci-fi horror story. It takes place in 1983, about 4 kids, which one of them named Will gets mysteriously missing, and the quest for his search begins by his 3 friends, his older brother, his mother Joyce, played by Dane Carisoko to see you back, I'm never letting you go again, Winona Ryder, and Police Chief Hopper, played by David Harbour. Later the 3 kids discover a strange little girl named Eleven, played by Millie Bobby Brown, who has telekinesis powers and has the key to find their friend Will and stop a mysterious monster that has been unleashed from another dimension by her evil scientist father. It's kinda common now to dislike whatever's popular now these days, but I don't care. I enjoy this show. It got me laughing, it got me angry, it got me depressed, and I was on the edge of my seat for how much invested I was for this story and these characters. Ironically, what was told to be the worst thing in the show turned out to be the best thing in the show, and I'm talking about the kids. Just like in the movie Stand By Me, it was an enjoyment to see them act and talk like kids. On top of that, they do so great making us react differently towards them, for being the voice of reason, to make us laugh, even at times annoy us, and also intrigue us. Millie Bobby Brown as 11 is probably a classic now. It's impressive that at that young age, she could communicate her fears, her concerns with very limited dialogue, making the scene more impactful. She could be vulnerable and yet be a badass that could break your neck just by blinking. We're curious about her because she's curious, and her curiosity adds more to her character and makes her more interesting. I've heard many got tired of Winona's hysterical performance. Well, not for me. I was just happy to see her back again, who I thought was the best actress from all the adults here. I could understand the reasons she acted the way she does. She just wants to find her son, and I sympathize for her whenever they thought she was a crazy woman for the strange things that happened in her house. At first I thought he was going to be a dislikable, incompetent cop, but turned out to be someone you cared for, who had a past that could relate to Joy's son's disappearance. I could get behind Charlie Heaton, who plays Will's oldest brother and Joy's son, for being the unpopular outcast, and also for reminding me to Darren from The Walking Dead. The teenagers are really not necessary, but for what they got, it was not bad. If you're one of those who hated the bully cliche from the 80s, oh don't worry, because it's not one bully, but 2 bullies you need to worry about. The villain was also good on not knowing whether to understand his motivations or hate him for the cruel treatment of her daughter. So why did this show had a big spread word of mouth that it got? Simple, for being a homage to the Stephen King stories and to the classic 80s movies that many people grew up with. And I don't mind it. Whether you got annoyed by the 80s references, you gotta admit, at least you could relate to one of them, whether it was the movies, the music, or the board games. Personally, I saw the fun side of looking for these Easter eggs. There was some of Carrie and Firestarter on Elle with her telekinesis powers and being used on experiments. There was some reminder of the Goonies with all the kids together, as well as some of Nightmare on Elm Street for its horror aspect breaking into reality. Joyce reminded me a lot to Mrs. Brisby from Secret and Nim as the mother who's placed out of her comfort zone but goes through any daring situation to save her son. Then getting to another dimension to find Will back from a monster, that's Poltergeist. I didn't realize this had some of Alien in it when crossing the unknown. The teenage subplots, well, that can be any high school teenage movie of the 80s. And some references are very spot on. The Star Wars references, the obvious Stand By Me remake scenes. Or how about when the boys dress the girl into, well, a girl? And later have a bike chase scene because the government is after them, followed by being saved by the one who has powers in their group? Hello, E.T. And also when they're explaining their science theory dimension that seem a lot familiar to another sci-fi movie called Hi! Now, as much as I enjoyed searching for these similarities, I can see why many would get irritated with the re-mentioned scenes from another movies. The same way as some got turned off with The Force Awakens repeating the same stuff from the original. This show could have fallen into a trap of mentioning as many movie scenes as they wanted to, but if it had no substance of originality or care for the story or characters, once the Easter egg search is over, it would have been left as a forgettable copy rip-off from other movies. Or, how we say it in YouTube, Esa copyright! Esa copyright! Hey! But fortunately, I do care for these characters, and I see some originality with the teenage romance and also the bully. Instead of serving as a plot device that could have been replaced, he's actually used through the end of the show, tuning down all the despicability we first had at him. The house covered with Christmas lights, I can already see it as an iconic setting place through the years. It's colorful, supernatural, it looks amazing, and I would definitely live in that place just for those colorful lights. My only nitpick is it didn't quite fully go to the 80s as I hoped it would. Why not give the entire show a retro VHS quality look as in their intro, and not as if it was shot with a high definition camera? I don't mind the look of the monster, which reminded me a lot of the man-eating plant from Jumanji, but I hope that maybe the monster would have been either a man in a suit or an animatronic puppet, and not this CGI that at times looked pretty bad. But hey, if it's money issues, it's understandable. Also, I might be sidetracking just a little bit from here, but I want to share this side of nostalgia that I never saw in this light until a few days ago. Everyone goes through that phase of reliving their good old memories from their past, wanting to return to their childhood when it was easier. While it's normal, in some situations it's not always that good. I was recently watching this Spanish podcast where they talk about how dangerous nostalgia can be, which I never saw it in that way, but has some really good points. Instead of helping us move forward, it can drag us backwards. That's why the Turks got angry this summer, because their leaders wanted to go back to the Sultan days, which means bad news for the people. Now sometimes it's better to go back to the old days, if it's beneficial, but it's when people blindly want to go to another generation only to be part of its pop culture of its time, forgetting they would face the same social troubles as everyone did. Whenever I hear little girls say they want to go to the 50s just so they can be like the girls from Greece, oh yeah, good luck being treated second class if you're not a white male citizen. Or how about the 80s? Even though they look awesome, I don't think we want to live with that paranoia being bombarded by the Soviets. And let's not talk about those good old 60s. It's really not smart to paint a year better than the other just because one year MTV was better, or VHS still existed, or the Beatles were still alive. It's normal to wonder how would it been like if we lived in another generation. I mean, if you ask me, I would have gone to the first century, 70s, 80s, and 90s. I have my reasons. And it's good to go back to our memories and relive them, but not get stuck in them. At the end of the day, we have to grow up as individuals and evolve our skills and talents or stay behind. So for the millennials out there, enjoy the present years because one day this is going to be nostalgic, and so is this, and this, and this. All years have flaws and some are worse than others. We solely focus on the pop culture of its era because it helps us forget about reality and the real problems of the world. In 20 or 30 years from now, everyone is gonna say the 2010s were the best years ever to live on, which honestly, they were not. So, moral of the story, enjoy the present day while you can. I don't want this to overshadow my thoughts on the show. I just thought it would be interesting to share this point of view that many don't come across with when it comes to nostalgia. As a whole, I appreciate this work a whole lot better, not just for being a love letter to the 80s, but because these are young directors that were given the opportunity to have their visions made reality with no backstabs, no interferences when nobody believed in them. And to hear these stories about people that had the opportunity to demonstrate just how talented they are and succeed, it's always an awesome thing. And you can tell they care much more about its content and not being a big studio quick money grab. It was an idea that was brought forward to the fullest of its potential, and for an 8 episodic show, I think it's satisfying. For how short it was, many can go back and rewatch it over and over again and feel like they're watching a movie. Maybe it might not be as intriguing the second time, but it made a good first impression, paying off with a new upcoming second season, which many are puzzled on how it's going to top the first season. Well, let's see how that turns out. Good, better, or worse? So far, it was a fun 80s homage with a big story and characters you care for, concluding in an ending that is left for the viewer's interpretation, and leaving it as a solo season that can stand out for itself. I give it an 8 out of 10 stars. Well, the only thing left now to Homage is a 90s show Homage. Young directors out there, if you're listening to me, make this happen. Make this happen! What are your thoughts on the show? Did you like it? Did you not like it? I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. You can leave your comments down below. Like, subscribe, and what would be some movies you'd like me to review later? Well guys, tune in next time for more reviews to come. So for now, that's it for today. Ciao.